We work so you can play.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Warhammer 40k League Battle Report. As always, my name is Jay, and once again we're at Black Knight Games in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. So if you're in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, come check it out. If you're in Hamilton, Ontario, Sweden, don't go check it out.
Is there even a Hamilton, Ontario, Sweden? Yes.
I have no idea.
There's a Hamilton in the States, though.
Is there?
Yeah, there was just Hamilton in the States.
Oh, that's good. So, as always, my name is Jay, and once again I am joined by... And Trevor. And we're bringing you another 40k game, because if these guys weren't playing 40k, I'd wonder what they're doing in the 40k League. Right? That makes sense. And so, surprising in the armies, we're going to be playing how many points today?
1750.
Of your
Orks
versus?
Space Marines.
Ouch. Well, what kind of Space Marines?
Imperial Fists.
Is a certain warlord making an appearance today?
Yes.
Who's that name?
Pedro Cantor.
Yeah. So the name of today is going to be Reroll Ones. And yeah, have you guys rolled for the game type yet?
No, but Cho's going to need the reroll ones to win.
Oh, you guys, the trash talk is starting. The trash talk is starting. It's going to be fun. See, I wish this was a banter, but then we have to censor because it'd be like beep, 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 you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all good. So without further ado, we'll get to the armies and the deployment type.
All right, so we'll start off with 1,750 points of Orks. As you can see, it is Aaron's favorite list. War Boss, Power Claw, Boss Pole, everything awesome. And Bikers with a bunch of Power Claws and Big Choppas. 2 squads of full Ludas. And a giant squad of Ork boys, just boys. And a giant squad of Knobs with a War Boss again to make them troops inside a truck. And the final squad of Ludas. And that's 1,700 points. 1,750 points, sorry, of Orks. And now, 1,750 points of Iron Knights. Leading the army is a Pedro. Yep, Pedro Cantor. Or sorry, this is, I guess they're acting as Crimson Fists. Yeah, they're acting as Crimson Fists, I guess, today, or... Devastator Centurions. A Dreadnought with Twin-Linked Heavy Flamer and a Flamer. Underslung Heavy Flamer. In a drop pod. Land Raider. Crusader, in which the Crusaders will be a teeny tiny Vindicator from the old school classes. Squad of Assault Marines. 2 squads of Tactical Marines. And that is 1,750 points. And he also has a Librarian and a Tech Marine. So we roll to see what kind of game type. It's 5, which is Emperor's Will. And they roll, and it's going to be Table Corners. And finally, Night Fighting. No. So they roll to see who goes first. Aaron rolls, and he rolls a 1. Trevor then rolls, and rolls a 5, and decides that he is going to go first. So here's what the board looks like after deployment. As you can see, they both line up along their corners' edges, ready to proceed forward and go for each other, while guarding their own objectives. And those Orks are going to be very fast in getting to those opponents' objectives, and the Ludas are going to just stay back and hopefully protect theirs with that giant squad of boys that are going to sit on the top of their own objective. And we'll see what happens in turn 1. But first, Aaron tries to seize the initiative, and he does. So Orks have taken the initiative, which is a huge advantage for those Orks, and they begin with a friendly handshake, and it's Orks turn 1. So he begins by shooting up the truck as fast as it possibly can go. It has red paint job, so it can go that extra inch, which is excellent. And then the non-bikers do the same. They just turbo boost right up there to get in Trevor's face turn 1. That way they can just get into assault turn 2 and do as much damage as possible. Non-bikers are very hard to deal with via shooting, so they are easy to get into close combat and do some serious damage. So they roll to see what type of objectives they have, and they both have the exploding objectives. They decided to do random ones, and it's going to be fun this game because now on a 6, at the end of each player turn, they're going to roll, and on a 6, explosion right over their objectives. So they do some shooting. And they one failed lookout sir on that squad. Lookout sir successfully, so 1 wound. And then the bikers also do some shooting. And in the end, they just force 2 armor saves and they kill 1 tactical marine, which isn't bad. So really nothing happens first blood and neither of them explode. And it is Space Marines turn 1. So now it's time for the drop pods to come in and release their vengeance on the Orks. So the first one lands exactly where Trevor wants it to, and the Dreadnought pops out ready to flame some Orks. And then the teeny tiny Vindicator moves up, and he casts Telekinetic Dome. He forgot that so we went back into the Psychic Powers. He cast Telekinetic Dome, and it went off, which is really nasty because if they pass their invul save, it bounces the bullets 6 inches away at one of you. So it's like that fun Necron shield. And then the Assault Marines jump up. They're going to go in and assault that truck. Right now, he wants to get first blood. And so, if he can pop the truck, he gets first blood. And then at a point in games like this, it'll really matter. Since there's only one objective in each side, they really want to get first blood and slay the Warlord, because that can really inhibit your opponent to win. And he uses his piece of equipment to reduce the cover save of the Orks by 1. They're Auspex, I believe it's called.
We're going to fire at them! No, not at us! No!
And then he started to fire at the Ork boys, as you can just see. He starts dropping pie plates from the Vindicator on top of the Ork boys. It does scatter a little bit, but it hits 3. And wounds 2 of them. He passes 1 cover save, but he gets feel no pain. So, sorry, it is strength 10, so no feel no pain, and he loses 1 Ork boy due to it. And then he fires everything from his Land Raider at the truck, and the melt misses. The assault cannon hits, and then all those bolters, a bunch of them hit, so the bolters need 6s to glance, and they get nothing. And then he just keeps firing at the truck. So the blue are the plasmas, and it does get preferred enemy. So he needs 6s and 3s, and he rolls cover saves and passes both of them. And the other one passes other cover saves, so they're all still good. The truck is still alive. And so then he just shoots again at the truck. Basically right now he really wants to kill that one truck, because if he can kill it, it goes away. And in the end it gets 1 hull point taken off it. And now the Centurions decide to fire. He will split fire the Centurions. The leader, it does pass his leadership check, and the leader fires at the truck, and I believe the rest of them fired at the Ork Knob Bikers. And he just keeps rolling. And so he starts rolling his... So 1 pen got through on the truck. And then he rolls, because it is +2, because it's open-topped, and it is an AP2 weapon. And he rolls, and it explodes. So that is first blood for the Space Marines. Of course, it ramshackles, and it moves slightly away, and then explodes, giving first blood to the Space Marines, which ultimately was Trevor's goal. And they roll for the explosions, and it's actually only gives 1 wound to the knobs inside, and they pass their... Oh no, I think they failed their pinning check. No, they definitely passed their pinning check. And then he does the rest of the shooting on the knob bikers. So he's firing his heavy bolters. And then he rolls 2 4+ armor saves on those boys. Fails 1, but luckily all the knobs get feel no pain today. Feel no pain is the name of the game, and he passes it, so no pain felt. And then he made his other one. So now it's time to flame the Ludas. The Dreadnought jumps out and flames those Ludas with his twin-linked heavy flamer. And it's twin-linked, so he gets to reroll it. And in the end, kills a whole bunch of them. I think he kills 9 of them in that 1 shot alone, and then shoots his other flamer, hitting the rest. This one is not twin-linked. And kills another 2 more. So 2 more Ludas die. That takes out most of the squad. And then the drop pod tried to snapshot its shot. And then the Ludas fail their leadership check and run completely off the board. That is a huge blow to the Ork army. And then he just tries to shoot at the Knob Bikers once again. He just measures them. They're in range and starts firing at them. And just keeps firing at them. Gets a bunch of hits and needs 5s to wound because Ork Knob Bikers are toughness 5, and bolter fire just doesn't do as much to them as it did before. That's a great thing about Knob Bikers is now their base toughness is 5, so they're only instant killed by strength 10 or above. And in the end, he gets one. He rolls his cover save, passes it, and the rest of his armor saves as well. Fails 1, but gets feel no pain. And passes his feel no pain. Aaron is amazing at passing his feel no pain rolls. And the next one just passes his cover save again. So nothing happened as a result. He declares assault. Overwatch from the Knob Biker, or sorry, from the bike squad. It ends up killing one of the guys actually, due to just the Overwatch alone, which is great for Orks. Then rolls his distance and is able to get in. Remember, there's a crater there. That's why it's rolled 3d6 and take the 2 lowest. And his Assault Marines get in there, and with the knobs. Of course, knobs are pretty nasty in close combat, which you'll find out. So now to the combat. Of course, the Hammer of Wrath attacks first, needing 4s to wound. I don't think those are Hammer of Wrath. Those are the normal attacks, sorry. But he does have Preferred Enemy, because Pedro is in the list, and Pedro gives Preferred Enemy to his entire list, basically, against Orks. Trevor didn't know that Aaron was bringing Orks, and that's obviously why he brought Pedro Cantor, which is a great idea. And he rolls his armor saves and fails all 4 of them. So he ends up losing 2 guys and then 1 wound on one of them. So then initiative, I believe 3 pile in with the big choppas. They hit back. They get a bunch of hits as well. Only need 2s to wound. And then the next ones as well. Ork Knob Bikers just get a lot of attacks. Trevor rolls his armor saves and fails 1. So 1 Assault Marine is dead. And now the Power Axe goes at initiative step 1. I believe it needs 4s to hit. And misses one of them, but has Preferred Enemy. And then needs 2s to wound. Oh, sorry, 3s to wound. Because it's strength 5. And it wounds. And he feel no pains it. And fails it. So 1 more Ork Knob will take a wound. And then he hits back with all of his Power Fist attacks, and that alone just wipes out almost the entire squad of Assault Marines. So they lost by a lot. And then Aaron keeps swinging away with his War Boss, and as you can kind of see what's going to happen, whole squad is going to be dead because he does get a 6-up armor invol to the shield. Knobs win, and Knobs consolidate 5 inches.
Here's what the board looks like after 1 turn. As you can see, Orks have taken some casualties, Space Marines have taken some casualties, and it's just Hilarity in the middle, and Ludas are gone over there due to a flaming dreadnought. That didn't sound very good.
We hate you! I have the objective.
Censor that.
Oh my!
I'll have to do a voiceover after. And we'll see what happens in turn 2.
So now it is Orks' turn 2. Orks continue to move up to go assault and give the Dreadnought a hug, as Aaron would say. He wants to give the Dreadnought a hug and moves up his Knob Bikers to go and pop that Vindicator if possible, and then moves up his other Knobs to kill the Centurions and the Librarian. Basically, Knobs are really nasty in close combat. They still are just as nasty as they were before, and Aaron's going to show how nasty they are now. So the Ludas start shooting. They get three shots each, I believe, and as you can see, all that DACA, 2s to wound. And he rolls all of his 3+ armor saves on this squad, and only fails a couple, actually. So only 2 members of the squad are dead. And then the Ork boys decide to assault the Dreadnought. He rolls, because he has Overwatch with both Flamers. So D3 for the Twinling Flamer, only rolls a 1. And then D3 for the non-Twinlinked. And it goes off the table, so he rolls. And he rolls a 2. So then he rolls 3s to wound on all of them. One of them is Twinlinked. And it's to reroll the 2, because that's the Twinlinked one. And it fails still. So 2 boys die. Then he rolls his distance, and it's able to get into close combat with the Dreadnought. And he's hoping to give it a big hug and destroy it this turn. So then Overwatch again for the next assault, and he gets into close combat. So the Knobs are able to get into combat with the Centurions. Now the Centurions are going to know how crazily those Knob Knobs are in close combat, and then he assaults the Vindicator with the Knob Bikers. So the Dreadnought close combat first, and Dreadnought attacks first, and is able to kill a couple. And then the Knobs hit back, and sorry, the boys hit back, and with the Knob, Power Claw alone wrecks it, and that Dreadnought is dead. So now the Knobs versus Librarian and Centurion combat. They do a challenge. Warboss versus not Warboss, sorry. Just HQ versus Warboss. And Librarian hits first. Gets a couple wounds. Warboss rolls his invols and passes all 3 of his cyborg body invols. That is amazing. And then hits the Librarian back. Librarian roll his invols. And we'll see what happens in a second with that. And then the rest of the attacks on the Knobs. Centurions aren't as amazing in close combat as they are shooting. These are the heavy weapon Centurions. So Aaron rolls his Feel No Pains and fails 1. So one of the closer Knobs is dead. And then the big Choppas hit. They hit. They need 2s to wound and get a few wounds. The Centurions roll their 2-up armor saves and fail 1. And then the other big Choppa goes. Oh, sorry, that's the Pain Boy. And then the rest of the attacks come, and this is when the nastiness happens. And then all the AP1 attacks go, and there's a couple for the Space Marines. They're going to end up killing 1 Knob because he fails to feel no pain, and his invul, so 1 dies. And that 1 Centurion is dead, and then the other guys end up just killing the rest of the Centurions alone because of all those Power Claw attacks from the Orks. So the Space Marines actually failed, and he flees, and the Orks catch him and hold him in combat. And then the Knob Bikers attack the Vindicator and pop it. So it explodes, and it's gone too. And then they roll to see if their objectives explode. And it does, but it doesn't do any wounds to the Space Marines. So now it's Space Marines turn 2. So the Space Marines jump inside the Land Raider because Knobs will have a little bit of a harder time killing it. And hopefully they'll be able to cross the battlefield and go for his opponent in the Land Raider. And then moves up the other Space Marines away from the objective. Since right now it could potentially explode, might as well go for it later in the game. And now he starts open firing on the Ludas with all of his gunfire. Basically right now he just wants to kill those Ludas, force them maybe to fall back as well, which will greatly inhibit them, or maybe they'll run off the table and die like the other Ludas. So he fires all of his shots from the Land Raider at the Ludas. Some of them have to snapfire obviously because it moved. And in the end, I think he kills only 2 Ludas total in that squad, and then the Librarian attacks the Warboss. Gets 1 wound, and pain is felt. He tries to activate his force weapon. And he does, and so the Warboss is killed by the Librarian in the challenge. Unfortunately, that wasn't his Warlord, as I mentioned earlier, but that's still a pretty good victory for the Librarian. And the Orks fail and fall back. And they roll to see if they explode. And it actually wounds, it did explode one of the objectives and explodes, and they fail, so one of the Orks dies.
Here's what the battlefield looks like. As you can see, Space Marines are taking heavy casualties, so are the Orks, though. A Knob squad is fleeing.
Reggaeton land.
I mean, they're great. Tanks been popped. Knob Bikers are happy. Luda's dying. Everyone's happy. Ork boys keep getting exploded on. It's like 3 in a row rolls for exploding. And the Dreadnought has been falling over.
Yes,
and we'll see what happens in turn 3.
So now it's Orks turn 3. So once again, the bikes just turbo boost up. Now they have a choice of taking out that Librarian that won the combat, because he couldn't chase down the Orks once they fled, because he's Terminator armor. And the other Orks decide that they roll, they pass a leadership check, and they regroup and move back 3 inches. And then the firing begins. They have 3 shots each with Ludas, a bunch of shots, some wounds. He rolls his armor saves, fails 1, and then the other squad just snap fires at them, at the Librarian. And he fails his armor save. And the librarian actually dies due to just a normal snap firing. Once again, his warlord is Pedro, so it doesn't count, but it's just a cool shot. Then he keeps shooting at him with the Ludas. And a bunch of armor saves later, he fails most of them. And they hold, despite the fact that it's just Pedro and a couple of guys left. Man, he loses a lot of guys in that shot. And ends up doing a wound to the non-bikers as they assault in. He passes and he rolls 6 inches in to get into that squad that Pedro's in with his guys. Right now, Pedro's alive, but barely, and those non-bikers are going to come a-clawing pretty quickly, as you can see. So a challenge kill, one warlord versus the other. Warlord biker versus warlord Pedro. So the warlord orc goes first. Gets a bunch of hits, 4 wounds, and Pedro is instant killed. He has 1 attack, gets it back, and the warlord boss is okay. And now Pedro is killed in a crazy challenge. And then the rest of the non-bikers go on that squad, and you can kind of guess what's going to happen now, because those guys are at full strength. They're going to hit really hard against those Space Marines. So first the Marines get to go do their attacks. They get 1 failed wound, but it passes Feel No Pain. Once again, Aaron just is amazing at rolling his Feel No Pains. Aaron hits back with his Power Claws. As you can kind of guess what's going to happen against Marines, they go bye-bye. And then the rest of the attacks come. Here are all the claw attacks. And the rest of the squad is dead. And they consolidate 2 inches. And they just move back, so that's pretty much a gone squad. And then they roll to see if the other ones explode. And neither of the objectives explode. And it is Space Marines turn 3. So now the Land Raider moves up carrying the guys, because not much will pop that Land Raider, so now he can go in and perhaps get Linebreaker. And so it'll move up. And he shoots the boys there. So the Assault Cannon shoots. At full ballistic skill, hits with all 3. And the rest of the Melta doesn't hit. And then all those bolters, Snapfire, bunch of hits. And they need 2s to wound on the Assault Cannon. 4s on the 1. And ends up doing a bunch of wounds. He tries to look out, sir. So he tries to look out, sir. Fails one of the lookout, sirs. 2 of them got off. And so the knob dies, and a few of them else die. So a bunch of that squad is actually wiped out.
So after 3 turns, here's what the battlefield looks like. Knobs have taken his objective. Knobs in the middle of the table. Iron Knights across the table and killed some Orc boys. Ludas can't do anything except shoot the drop pod. And we'll see what happens in turn 4.
So now it is Orks turn 4. So once again, the Orc boys begin by moving back a little bit to go destroy that Land Raider to deny it Linebreaker. And the Ludas shoot at the drop pod. They get 2 shots each, bunch of hits, and essentially they wreck it. They roll to see if it explodes, and it does. It only rolls and goes 4 inches, but doesn't really do any damage to anybody else. And then they runs the other boys, and that's a quick turn. And then none of their objectives explode, and it's Space Marines turn 4. So once again, Land Raider moves up, and it's going to just try to demolish those Orc boys and get first blood, as well as contest his objective, or grab his objective, actually. So essentially they're trading objectives, which is pretty fun in Emperor's Will. So then he shoots all of his guns, the Orc boys, from the Land Raider. Multi-Melta shoots and misses. And then all of those bolter shots. And he actually gets a few hits. And then he rolls to wound, gets a few wounds on them, as always, because it's pretty easy to wound Orc boys. And is a preferred enemy because of Pedro. And in the end, a bunch of Orc boys are killed, but there's still a good chunk of the squad, about 9 or 10 guys. He rolls leadership check. and passes,
So after 4
and neither of them
turns,
explode.
it's been 4 turns in the score. It's crazy. Land Raiders over there about to plow through some boys. These gut knobs have taken this objective. It might be a draw. We'll see in the next turn.
So now it is Orks turn 5. Once again, the knobs move up, so they're going to go try to assault that Land Raider and pop it before it's able to continue to get Line Breaker. So he tries to assault, 2d6 distance, and gets 7 inches, which is the perfect amount to get them in. So they're able to get in, and they're going to try some attacks. They need 3s to hit, and 6s to pen. And they get actually a pen with the Power Claws. And they roll, and it explodes. So this explodes, so they roll to see if it hurts the guys on the inside. And in the end, doesn't really hurt any of them. Rolls 1 wound, but I believe he passes his armor save. And then the guy, all the Ork boys around them. And it only wounds one of the Ork boys that are near it. And he actually fails it. So you do a pinning check, and they're not pinned. And then a leadership check, and they're not falling back either. So they're just out there, and they're going to stay alive and hopefully mow down some Ork boys. Then they roll to see if the things explode, and neither of them do. So now it is Space Marines turn 5. So now those Space Marines, they move up. They want to go assault those Orks, get in as much combat and destroy them. And if they can kill all the Ork boys and go for that objective, essentially they just trade objectives, and it'll be a tie game in the end, because they'll both have Line Breaker, they both have a point, and one is First Blood, one has Slay the Warlord. So it's going to be a good close game. So he declares his assault. They overwatch with all those Ork shots, and actually manage to get a few hits. Then he assaults through cover, and it's 5 inches. And that's enough to get the Space Marines in, and it's going to be a combat now. So initiative step 4 first. They do their attacks first with the Space Marines. They actually don't get many hits at all. They whiff on most of their rolls, and then need 4s to wound, because they're, of course, toughness 4, strength 4. And they roll, and get 3 wounds. He rolls his armor saves, and fails the first one, fails the second one, and the third one. So 4 Ork boys are actually killed. And then they hit back, needing 4s to hit, 5s to wound. Managed to get a few wounds. But he rolls his armor saves and fails only 1. So 1 Space Marine dies. Space Marines won combat, so they do their leadership check. And the Orks get caught, and they get completely overrun. And the Space Marines now have wiped out all the Ork boys, and now they're going to consolidate towards the objective. And then they roll to see if the objectives explode. First one actually does, and the other one doesn't. So they roll to see if it hurts the Knob Bikers on top of the Space Marine objective, and they don't.
So here's what the game looks like after 5 turns. Right now, Orks have Line Breaker, they have Slay the Warlord, and they have 1 objective. However, Imperial Knights / Iron Knights / Imperial Fists have Line Breaker and First Blood and that objective. So right now it is a draw, which is Canada's least favorite thing, a draw. So we'll see what happens. Does the game end?
Nope.
No, it does not.
So the game continues, and it's Orks turn 6. So now, Orks have to move up. Those Ork knobs are going to go for the Space Marines and try to wipe them out to prevent them from scoring the objective and getting Line Breaker. But first, the shooting phase, he starts shooting at the guys and actually manages to get a few hits, few wounds, and kills 1. Then they roll for their leadership and fail. So they have to actually fall back 8 inches, which is towards Trevor's board edge. Of course, they'll automatically regroup next turn, but still, that is a huge blow to the Space Marines because it forces them back, and they're no longer on top of their objective. And then the Orks just cuddle around the opponent's objective just to guard it and make sure that it's safe. And then he tries to assault him. They declare Overwatch. And don't get anything. But they have preferred enemy. So they do a couple hits, a couple wounds. And they actually do a wound on the knobs. They roll their distance. And are actually able to get close to those guys. And they pass their leadership, so they're still in combat. And, sorry, the other guys. This is the other dudes. And they get their attacks in, and obviously knobs are pretty scary in close combat, as Space Marines will find. They fail a couple of their armor saves, so 2 Space Marines are already dead. And then the rest of the attacks go. And wipes out almost all of them. Yep. And they fail. and they get caught again by the Orks. So that entire Space Marine squad is wiped out, and there's just the one that's fleeing. They roll to see if the objectives explode again because they're both sabotaged. Nothing happens, and it's Space Marines turn 6. So the Space Marines regroup automatically and go towards Aaron's objective, since they can now go and hide and try to get a little cover from shooting. And that's pretty much them. And then back to their combat. Knobs versus the Space Marines that got caught last turn, because they don't die, they just get overrun. They just get caught. And it ends up forcing a bunch of saves, obviously, and the Knobs kill the remaining Space Marine, and they consolidate 6 inches, also towards the objective in which the other Space Marines have gone for. So it is getting very close, and now they're both contesting that far objective. Essentially, the Space Marine player has to kill them. They roll to see if they explode, and neither of them explode.
So, after 6 turns, here's what the battlefield looks like. Orks now have that objective, and they're contesting that one. So right now, the Space Marine player hopes it goes into turn 7, but will it? Does the game end? No, it doesn't.
So now it is Orks turn 7. All the Ork player has to do is wipe out those 3 remaining Space Marines. So he declares his assault. They overwatch back. Gets 1 hit. 1 wound. He fails his armor save but gets feel no pain. And fails its sole wound on the close knob. They get their distance, 7 inches. And essentially, if he can kill them right now in close combat, it is game over. And as you can see, Knobs are very good in close combat. So Space Marines hit, don't do really anything to the Knobs. Knobs then hit back with a vengeance, hitting them and killing all the Space Marines. So they're all dead. It is a good game. Hearty handshake between the two. And it is an Orks victory. So thank you very much for watching this battle report. And if you want to see another awesome Warhammer 40k battle report, please click on the link below for a free 7-day trial to the MiniWarGaming Vault, where you'll get to see this battle report, as well as many other battle reports, and some really awesome wargaming material. So until next time, this is Jay saying, happy wargaming, everyone.